Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Thursday, it is Rob Liefeld Day, so we're looking at the last issue of his The New Mutants run from the early 90s. This is issue 100, cover date April 1991. First of all, starting off with the cover. Not much to say. I do want to say I feel like it harkens back to last issue's cover, 99. If on purpose or not, or maybe just quickly for the deadline and stuff, you know, kind of flipping it a little bit with some of the characters at least. But same idea of those characters kind of standing stoically in the background and, you know, other characters in the foreground. In this case, a single figure. On this one, a few multiples, but I guess, you know, deadline-wise, it seemed like a good idea, and it's still a very striking cover. We've got the newer characters who are coming in to the team to finally cement them as not the New Mutants anymore, but as X-Force. So there you have it. Let's have a look inside and see what's going on. I will say first, kind of general detail, there's some good stuff here, and I feel like there's a lot that we're going to see in X-Force #1, this kind of rendering. By this point, Liefeld is inking himself, right? And he's been doing it for a few issues, and that's going to continue all through into X-Force. I feel like X-Force #1 is maybe even a step above this issue. It feels like he's doing great, but it kind of feels like maybe that little bit of time off or whatever time he has between New Mutants and X-Force to kind of maybe work on the art just a little longer or push a little harder. Those first few issues of X-Force, again, we are in peak Liefeld mode right now, I would say, art-wise, but those first, you know, 3 or 4 issues of X-Force are just great. That really is the peak of the peak right there, and we'll be seeing those soon. So what's going on here? I just want to mention story-wise, like, again, I've talked about how this was plotted out by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza, or Niciezi, or however that you're supposed to pronounce that one. As you know, I'm horrible with all these names. Is just adding dialogue on top to, you know, fairly thin Rob Liefeld plots. So the conceit here is that, you know, they just, you know, walk into the danger room and this complete unknown is there training with their robots and stuff. So it's kind of an odd premise, right? So, you know, all he can really do at this point is, you know, try to figure out how to explain as best he can through dialogue. So I'll read a bit. I don't usually read a lot, but in this case, I think it's worth it. Cable, should I ask? No. How about me, boss? Domino, please. I'm getting a headache. You don't know who he is? No. I take it that equipment he's destroying is expensive? Very. Would you like me to stop him? Have a party. So there's just some random guy, not much more, you know, training in the danger room and not much more explanation than that. It's kind of an odd sequence, right? But again, at this point and the age we were reading this stuff, that wasn't, you know, what was important, really. I think we just all kind of got off on the art and trying to reproduce it and trying to draw like Rob Liefeld. There was a lot of that in there too, right? And this is still, at the time, I'm not reading comics regularly, so I kind of missed this issue completely. And prior, I missed all of New Mutants, basically. My first X-Force issue is actually X-Force #2, my first Rob Liefeld issue as well. So, credits: Rob Liefeld, plots, pencils, inks; Fabian Niciezi, script, words, hair loss; Joe Rosen, letters, calligraphy, eye strain; and Brad Vancata, colors, hues, passports. So just, I guess, trying to infuse a little bit of that Stan Lee humor into the credits, right? That's where Stan Lee actually wrote stuff. So, pretty mundane kind of sequence here with some odd, you know, kind of lines for the clothing and the folds of the clothing. Rob Liefeld has always kind of drawn, I will point out, if it's been said before, I'm pretty sure, but he's always kind of drawn really weird loose cloth and just makes weird kind of abstract choices, which I still kind of enjoy somehow. You know, it's comics, a lot of comic book art is abstraction, so he just kind of goes really crazy and far with it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but at this period of Rob Liefeld, I appreciate a lot because he tries a lot of different things and he experiments a lot more than, say, Rob Liefeld today. We've got the old checkerboard here in the back, which I think he should bring back into his style. I think that's a big part of his style, and I don't see anything wrong with it. In any panel where there's no background, I wouldn't say, you know, add it in each of these. I think it's tastefully done here. But whoever added this patch of color, I think maybe is wrong. Should have left that maybe white and negative space maybe here too. That would be more in line with like image Liefeld designed pages and what he would do at Image and later on in his career, rather than added this colored thing in. He's not implied any kind of actual panel there, so interesting choices from the colors. So again, I mean, this is the kind of stuff we're into, the action, right? The cool poses, anchor shots. I've talked with the Dale Keown reviews about anchor shots on pages. So if you're not following that, well, I'll mention it here, where, you know, a lot of these guys who move on to Image a little bit later kind of start laying out pages and designing pages to have an anchor image, which is like one big cool image that kind of attracts your eye, and it keeps each page at least with some kind of point of interest, I guess is how you'd put it, right? So we've got a pretty good one here, and I'd say that, you know, the close up here with the sword, very kind of 90s deal here, but I mean, you know, the best of the 90s, the most fun stuff at least. Some interesting, weird, funky colors going on here in production. I don't know what's going on. We're getting the weird hatched eyes from Liefeld here. Like, this is a very extreme kind of example of it, right? What does that exactly mean visually? I'm not sure, but it just makes characters look Terminator-ish or scary, or, you know what I mean? There's just something unhuman about it, I guess. Makes them very menacing. Just odd choices, but, you know, when you're recreating this art as a kid, you know, you see all the lines and you can kind of see the work more obviously than more kind of refined artists or more illustrative artists. These backgrounds here, it's just, he's making interesting choices, just using like fat markers here. It has to be. I can't believe that's anything else. So interesting, this band of color again. Again, my preference would be to leave that kind of out and then just keep the negative space there. I think that would be better. Another choice was made here. We got the cool headshots, the Liefeld headshots here. We got Farrell jumping in, so, you know, all the main players are showing up again. But again, if you compare to X-Force #1, something else I want to talk about, just the finish of the overall art, I think, is a little more rushed still within these pages of New Mutants. Interesting page design here, though. He's trying for some crazy stuff. I like that. But there's just, yeah, it's not quite at the level it's going to be at X-Force #1. And I also wonder if there's a bit of a production issue there, too. If I'm not mistaken, once we get to X-Force #1, X-Force #1 will be printed on that what I just kind of call right now the higher quality newsprint that Marvel kind of switches to with some of their titles. I've talked about it for Wolverine. Once Todd McFarlane moves on to the Spider-Man series that he starts with #1, they've got that paper on there as well. They are charging a little bit more for those comics, I guess, because there are higher production values, but I think that has an effect on the art as well and the look of the art. Not that it looks horrible here, but I feel maybe with the jump in production for X-Force #1, I'm assuming, but I'm pretty sure they did that. I might be wrong. There's just something about here where the production still kind of dulls the Rob Liefeld art, which by this point is that 90s look, that sharp look, right, that really would benefit from some sharper printing as well. So still kind of vestiges of the old school Marvel way here in as far as production. And again, these weird bands of green here that I don't feel really improve the image in any way. I find it kind of annoying because I do understand that it's meant to just be negative space, which you can do like right here, right? No green band. Perfect. There's a weird shift here. I don't know if the art gets as far, and when I say the art itself, I mean like the production art that Rob Liefeld actually produces. It feels like the art on this page is smaller somehow, or there's just an odd proportion thing going on. It might just be me, but, and again with this green band, I don't understand. Take that out. It does it again here. Not needed. It's a weird, very weird choice. So all these new characters kind of antagonistic. These new characters who will form, you know, X-Force. So they're all kind of, you know, X-Force is that first kind of extreme 90s. They're proto Youngblood in a way, if you want to see it. That's kind of how I see it. And that first batch of kind of, you know, Rob Liefeld extreme characters So they're all kind of anti-heroes, right? Almost all of them. It's a whole team of anti-heroes, almost, except for maybe Boom Boom and Cannonball. And they're basically pretty much, I think, once X-Force is formed, the only vestiges of the New Mutants, right? Other than that, Feral isn't, right? Warpath isn't. Neither is Shatterstar, neither is Domino. They were all introduced kind of to eventually have New Mutants move on and be X-Force. That's an interesting thing there. Super small. That's, I guess, the first panel of the page. Very interesting. And they're in some sort of, there's lights there, studio screens. I don't know exactly what that is. I almost thought it was like a band jamming or karaoke or something. Like someone's playing a keyboard here, some lady, and these guys are singing. Don't see Rob Liefeld doing a lot of that. That's almost like, who did that in the margins? Mad Magazine and stuff. And there's sometimes like Sergio Aragonis drawings. So, all right, so we've got our Proto X-Force guys fighting the Morlocks in this issue, if I'm not mistaken, who are after Feral. That's what it is. I mean, I did eventually read this issue, but it's been a while. And Rob Liefeld, again, still going pretty hard with storytelling. I rarely, after, starting up at Image, I rarely saw Rob Liefeld do like 8-panel pages like this with small panels and kind of a sequential action. That gives us enough information from one panel to the other to understand what's going on, rather than just being kind of posy pages. This is a bit more of a posy page, right? Still some cool stuff going on. This is a shot he'll use again, I know, later on in X-Force, because I guess he kind of liked it and it's a good idea. And once you learn how to do something in comics, you do recycle it, because now, the more you do it, the better you get at it. A specific angle or drawing a building of some sort of specific one, little things like that. The first time you have to draw it, it's very hard and challenging, and then eventually, once you get through it the first time, it just keeps on getting better, and usually, you master it to a certain degree. But we definitely have our anchor shot here, right? This could almost be an Image comic, right? Colored with computers and stuff and printed on that Image paper. This would fit right in. And this is what eventually becomes, really, again, Youngblood. The team concept and stuff. Not much of a difference between X-Force and Youngblood, honestly. They're all Rob Liefeld characters. A lot of teams he created. So this is a great splash, I think. I really enjoy this one. I think we get a lot of depth as opposed to sometimes in Rob Liefeld. There's a weirdness here, I think, with the characters. I think Shatterstar's a bit too big for these Morlocks here. They're supposed to be the biggest. But other than that, I think the defined planes work pretty well here to give us that sense of depth in the scene. There's some backgrounds, right? More backgrounds than we get today from Rob Liefeld. I was mentioning about in the Incredible Hulk review about portals to other dimensions and stuff, and here we go. We've got it in comics. That trope, I'll say it again, has been around for decades and decades and decades. People are getting sick of it in the movies. I've been sick of it for years. It's a pretty easy conceit. Rob Liefeld uses it a lot. So this is an infamous page, what people would deem a swipe from another artist. I actually, read Ronin way before I read this issue. So back in the day when it was a meme yet and it wasn't all over the internet, it was probably 20 years ago, I eventually got my hands on this issue and looked through it and realized when I saw this that, oh yeah, 100% that's ripped off from Ronin. And then eventually it became common knowledge, but to discover that at that time kind of threw me down a Rob Liefeld wormhole of, from that point on, kind of seeing the swipes and homages depending on how he felt, I guess, at the moment that he's used, right? Again, if we make a quick kind of go over of what the difference is between a swipe and an homage, you obviously credit the artist that you're swiping from, and with a swipe, well, you don't, and you try to pass it off as your own, right? So back in the day, it was a little more common. Today, people will more commonly use the homage, which I think is a better way to do it, but because obviously people figure it out pretty quickly today. Pretty easy to compare now with Google. One thing I will say, though, some weird anatomy from Rob Liefeld here, in that the legs, this one looks very small, and this thigh, which should be further back, actually looks much bigger. So just a bit of asymmetry there from Rob Liefeld. Not the end of the world though, because it's not, you know, no one's sitting there analyzing thighs from panel to panel. So the main action is well taken away from Frank Miller. Well done. Not faulting Rob Liefeld for all the stuff. Don't forget, at the time that he's doing this, I think he's like 20, 19, 20, 21. He's like super young. So, you know, he's taken from his heroes and his influences, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Again, it's something that's been done over the years so many times. It's pretty common. Using the 90s black border here and the vertical panel. 2 tropes in one. And yeah, some actual, you know, killing here from Cable, it seems like. So Cable, I guess Rob Liefeld was able to get away with a lot back then with editorial as compared to maybe others. Maybe because, again, with the comics code and stuff, you know, you can't kill humans, but you can kill monsters or mutants or different races and stuff. So, sorry, different alien races, I should be more specific. Robots, you know, non-humans basically is how I'll put it. And when I mean non-humans, within comics, all the different kind of characters you can get, right? Nuclear zombies, whatever, you name it. And this will start because we've got Mask here, and Cable lets him go, and this will come back to haunt him and bite him in the ass a little bit later in the X-Force series. So still, you know, Liefeld's still making the effort, it seems, in his plots to throw in some subplots that he'll be able to pick off of later on in the X-Force storyline. So this is basically the page where Cable mentions everyone, we can't stay here forever or any longer, basically. So this is basically the end of the New Mutants, right? Them moving out from under the auspices of Professor X and moving on to form X-Force, which we're going to see in just a short time. Next week on the next review, we will be looking at X-Force #1. What you're looking at now is the last issue of New Mutants, issue 100. I had just want to go through this sequence real quick with Strife before I finish up. I do feel like some of this was done either by someone else inking over Liefeld or maybe an assistant or something, because some of this is not Liefeld-esque at all. These characters in the background and even this guy here. Some weird stuff going on this page. Maybe not so much down here. This feels like maybe Liefeld penciling with someone else inking over it, or someone approximating Liefeld's inking. But this panel is just very odd to me. It doesn't seem like Liefeld at all. And this is the beginning of the Cable is Strife and Strife is Cable storyline, right? We can see it here. So I didn't know the mystery started here. I actually first saw this scene in X-Force, which again we're going to see. I'm not exactly sure in which issue of the early run of X-Force, but this almost the same sequence here plays out again, and I'll mention it when we get to that issue of Strife removing his helmet, us understanding that, you know, he's a double or he is Cable, or we're not quite sure how that works. Obviously, it's a subplot that'll play out a little bit later in that crossover Executioner song, I believe it is. So there you have it, the seeds for that planted here, right, with Rob Liefeld. So there you go, guys. Kind of goes off with a whimper, but X-Force #1 is going to compensate well for that. A lot of action, some cool art. We'll look at that next review for Rob Liefeld in a week. New Mutants issue 100. There it is, the end of the New Mutants. If you have any questions, comments, let me know below. If you are not subscribed, please do so. It really helps out the channel, helps get us out there, and hopefully exposed to other people who might be interested in this type of content. So thank you so much, guys, and everybody out there, have a great day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.